Hello,
Hello. Welcome to Tinfoil Taco Truck, and I am your host, Don's Rays.
and I am a majestic Texan.
And today we have a special guest. We have a paranormal investigator, Miss Robyn. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Great.
Awesome.
And what do we have today for as far as what we're getting into?
Uh,
Oh,
Me?
yeah, we know
No,
you.
Darla.
We know that you've had because you and I started ghost hunting many years ago. Gosh, 15 or so years ago. Now I kind of got out of it because I kind of got the heebie-jeebies.
Longer. Yeah.
I didn't want to bring a demon home with me or something, so I was like, okay. So I guess if I have a question, and I do. Uh, have you ever brought anything home from you? And also, what do you do? Do you do anything ahead of time to prevent that type of thing from happening?
Bro,
We
I
gave you a
just want
good
to
one,
say,
huh?
bro, you just jumped right into
Right
it. You just go
into
like,
it.
here, so the first question. Well, I don't think that everything's a demon, first of all. I do think there's some really bad things out there, and there's a myriad of things that they could be, and they're not. That doesn't mean everything's bad or everything's not. It's just there's so many different entities, and even just remember human spirits. If you're a jerk in life, most likely you're going to be a jerk when you're gone, and they say some really terrible things. But the answer is yeah, I have had full on attachments, and it was not fun. It was not fun at all. This is back when I lived in Austin, so it's been almost 13 years ago by now. And what broke it was actually moving 1,800 miles away. So, and I know that sounds crazy moving because it wasn't haunting the house, it was me. And it was nightly, terrible nightmares where I was getting my lungs and my intestines ripped out and eating parts of me and I was hanging on a cross every time. And I'm not particularly
Wow.
religious, but for this instance, and something would just rub my arms and I got so tired of it. I go, stop, I gotta sleep. I wasn't even scared anymore. I was getting mad. And the dogs would sit on the bed and just growl at the ceiling. And even my husband could see the black swirling stuff. He's not into this at all, right? He's not into this at all. And so it was just so uncool. I was thrown off ladders, and you don't fall down the ladder. I mean, thrown feet off. I was, and everywhere I'd go in the house from time to time, the light bulb wherever I was would burst over my head. And I do know that there are electrical explanations for that, but I've never had it happen except during that time period. And
Wow.
let's see. This is I don't know if you've ever heard of the Seth Chronicles or Seth.
Yeah, yeah.
What?
Yes.
Okay, well this isn't that same entity, but this entity called itself Seth. And I had, do you know what a ghost box is or a voice box radio shack hack? You use a radio to communicate and get answers, which we've done that together before,
Hmm.
Darla. And anyway, this one device, to this day, if I turn it on, it starts going, Seth, Seth, Seth. I've even had people get mad at it, not mad, but irritated at investigations and go, can you just turn that off? You know?
Wow.
And but anyway, it was physically harming me. I was getting very sick. Um, uh, I couldn't use some of my equipment. Like I said, it was just really bad. It finally broke it coming up here, and I don't know how that distance made a difference. I have no idea whether it's a electromagnetic thing or what. I don't know. But but I know it's still around at times. And I'm gonna tell you, so fast forward 12 years. I've been up here 12 years. I've been doing a lot of investigations. I was part of a group that would hold events like specifically at Wildwood Sanitarium in Salamanca, New York.
Wow.
Fabulous place. If you ever get a chance, you should go. It's wonderful and kind of scary. But so we had all these people and we were running out of equipment. People were like, I want this and I want, we would offer our equipment to use. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to bust out with the old ghost box, the old voice, the radio. And I'm sitting on a bed with two people and they're quietly listening and asking questions. And the people in the hall have this thing. And I hear it say, Seth. And I just like, no, ignore that. That's not right. And it's like, Seth, Seth. And it says it 3 or 4 times. And I'm not saying anything. And they're confirming, they're like, who's Seth? And they're asking questions. And then it
Wow.
says Boston Spa, Boston Spa. That's the city, that's the village I live in, 400 miles away from that house. So it's, and then it said Robyn, and it started saying my name, Seth, and the village I flip and live in. And then it said my street name. And I went out there and I said, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to take this from you guys because it was such a horrific thing that went on with me in Austin. I mean, nightly torture for like 2 years.
Wow.
Also, there's a lot to it, right? I used to make a lot of woodworking in the shed in the backyard of that house. And one day I had the voice, I had it going because I was just listening and talking randomly,
Hmm.
openly to see if I could get any of the spirits around there, right? I was just bored. So I was woodworking and all that. And I had, you know what a paddle bit is on a drill? It's like
Mhm.
it's a drill bit, but it's wide at the end and it's got a sharp point.
Yeah.
And so I
It
was
makes
using this
countersinks.
thing, and that drill just went bam. I mean, for no reason, it just went and it went right between my thumb and forefinger and shredded
Oh my
that,
gosh.
shredded
Did you
that
have to get stitches and
hand.
stuff?
I did. I had to get 8 stitches. It was
Wow.
really bad. I had to hold my hand together to keep it from just gushing blood.
Wow.
And I knew it was from that. I knew it was him. There wasn't a doubt. Like, oh, I'm made a mistake and a bad woodworking choice. It was like, I know what that was.
Right.
Anyway, so yeah, the answer is yes. I had an attachment. Yep.
So does this, when you went back to the sanatorium, did it follow you again, or did you leave it there? Were you able to leave him there?
Well, I picked this entity up in Austin, Texas, and the
Right, right, right.
sanatorium is in Wildwood. But no, it only nowadays it will only rear its head when I turn that box on.
Time to get rid of that box.
So
Yeah.
I don't think I ever will because I just don't think I ever will. There's a weird psychological thing to it. I have to have my control of it, if that makes sense,
Gotcha.
not to
Oh,
let it out.
yeah.
I can
Yeah.
understand
So
that. That way, well, what if it, would you think that if you gave it to somebody that entity would go to that person, or do you think
I
it's
think
attached
so.
to the
I think
box?
it probably would. I think if I
Ooh,
had to really get rid of it, I would completely destroy it. But where would it release something? I don't, I just don't know how it's
right.
holding on.
So
And
the,
it's probably comes down to electromagnetic field again. But yeah, I don't know. So I just would rather just keep it and keep it off. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys
right.
noticed, but as soon as we started the episode, it started thundering here and just like boom, boom, boom. I was like,
Wow.
ooh, I'm wondering if this will pick up on the show or not. But yeah, as soon as you started talking about your experience, it was like boom. I was like, ooh, hello,
Yeah.
butterfly.
Yeah, we're
And there's no
expecting
rain.
some here too.
There's
So,
no rain here. I mean, it's not raining here
oh,
yet. It's just the thunder
that's
that
crazy.
I'm hearing.
Hey,
Well, I have another story to tell you guys whenever you're ready, but it's funny. I actually painted an entity, and I keep it hidden face to the wall in a closet in the attic. That's how, and I couldn't even finish it. I pulled the thing out so I could possibly show it to you guys, and within 10 minutes, I felt like I was having a sugar breakdown. Like I was having low blood sugar, and I was free, and there was no reason for it. And I saw it. It's sitting on my desk, face down right now. I don't know if you guys even want to see it, but maybe
we
later
want to see it.
if we
Of
get to.
course, we want to see it.
There's a
Most
whole nother
definitely,
big
we
long
want to see.
story, but I'll let you get to your questions. I don't want to monologue you
We had
guys.
a when my son was younger, we rented a home, and in the attic, he was playing in the attic. He was about 7 at the time. He found a picture, and we carried this picture with us, but he always had a imaginary friends until the imaginary friends started being a little malicious, so to speak. And
Hmm.
we tied it actually to this picture. We weren't certain if it was a box of magazines or this picture. I got rid of the magazines first. They were from like the early 60s and 70s, and it still kind of
Hmm.
lingered. And then we realized it was the actual picture. And he got really upset when we got rid of the picture. Now my son has passed
Hmm.
away this past August from testicular cancer, but this is when he was real
Sorry to
little.
hear that.
And
Hmm.
it scared me a few times. I didn't think it was that bad until it really seems like it wasn't going away. And we finally got to the point
Hmm.
it was that picture. We finally got rid of that picture. Yeah, it went to the dump. I was like, nope, not having it.
Yeah.
Totally believe that you can pick up something. That's why I used to do consignment store shopping very often, but I don't do it anymore. Because what if you pick up the clothing of a murderer or someone who is terrible and that clothing has their attachment on it? Do you think that kind of thing is a real possibility? I'm
I do think
superstitious, but
objects can have an energy. Yeah, because everything has energy. It's all moving. And we know that atoms can exist in two places at once
Yep.
across the universe. So absolutely, absolutely. Can you kind of cleanse it? Maybe. Do you really care to take the chance unless it's some like Versace bag for
yeah, right.
$5 or something? You're
There
like,
is a
I'll risk
website.
it. I don't care. I don't actually go ahead.
There is a website that where you can order like shoes and items, and it's on the dark web, and it's supposedly like murder victims and such as that, and
Hmm.
there's a guy, he's a fighter, UFC fighter that orders different stuff off this dark website and tries to claim it or not claim that there's something attached to it. But it's really interesting. I follow him sometimes when his videos pop up, and it's quite nerve-wracking if you really want to you know, get into it because you'll see speckled blood spots on somebody's boots, and
Yeah.
different things that are
I
attached
think
to it.
I
And it's
did
like
see a little piece of that. Yeah, I saw a little piece of that, and after all the experiences I've had, I couldn't even watch the video. Um,
I, yeah, I'm
I,
I'm
I
not
like to
real
feel
into
a little
it.
nonchalant about it now. Say, oh, I've been doing it for so long, and I've gone through so much. It doesn't really bother me to talk to spirits, but also when there's that sort of situation going on where even the thought of the whole process behind buying something off the dark web, which is a dark web for a reason, and then you're
Hmm.
also getting those just all the
Right.
energy that's wrapped up in that. I have no time for that kind of a net low vibration, like kind of.
Hmm.
I
Right.
just can't, because when you open yourself up and you sometimes you don't know what's going to come in that door.
Yeah.
That is
It's a
a hundred
fine
percent
line, I
true.
guess.
Well,
Yeah, that
that
is a
kind of
hundred
goes
percent.
back to my initial question is, do you do, before you go into these, do you do any sort of ritualistic type of thing to protect yourself and your group?
I believe in myself. I believe in myself, and I've always been, and I've never had a problem with people who like to do prayer circles or whatever it is it takes to protect yourself. I go in with full confidence in knowing who I am and that my soul is mine and that sort of thing. And also, I do not go in with any maliciousness myself. I don't go in demanding answers or projecting my spirituality on them. You don't know what they believed and and I just try not to stir the pot in that way. I actually go in and mostly talk to them like they're standing in the room with me, and they're a human being or a person or an entity that's in front of me, and I just talk, and that
Yeah.
seems to get a lot of good evidence or data anyway. Yeah. So no, I don't really do anything special besides just walk in with my own power, if
Hmm.
that makes sense, in my
Awesome.
own space. Yeah.
Yeah, protect yourself
Awesome.
first and foremost, especially if somebody's like a receiver, and you seem to be in tune with a lot of stuff versus some other people that do it just for, I hate to say it, funsies, and you don't want those things attached
Yeah.
to you and bringing them home. So yeah, protect yourself at first and foremost. That's, yeah,
Yeah. I'm
unspoken
not a
rules.
jump scare person. I don't go for the jump scare reason. I literally go to find out information about them and what they might be able to share with me. And in that vein, there is like a particular EVP, which I guess everybody knows what those are now, so no need to explain. But the voice, it just popped in my head just now that one of the recurring over 2+ decades of doing this EVP is they mention energy all the time. I bet I have 50 different EVPs from different locations. They just go energy because I'll say what's going on and yeah. So anyway, that's a side note. I don't know why that popped into my head, but it was worth sharing, I
That's
think, because
interesting to
it's
know
a
because, well, they say, death is just a new beginning, okay? And that energy cannot, doesn't die.
Mm-mm.
mhm.
So
Can't be
Yeah,
it
touched.
but
only
Einstein said
changes
energy
form.
doesn't exactly.
So,
It's
yeah.
yeah, it's true. So this wasn't planned for me to talk about. at all. Like I jotted down some locations, but I want to share with you real quick about my brother David, who passed away
Hmm.
in 2023, I think. Yeah. Um,
What
so
year was that now?
I believe it was
2022?
2023.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And um, okay, sorry, it just came into my mind, and so I really have to share this about the afterlife. Okay, so David lived with me for 8 years before he passed, and he moved in with my sister like just 2 or 3 months before he passed. But he's the middle child, always deferred to me. I'm the youngest, but always kind of deferred to me on decisions and things like that. So, boom, we're at Wildwood Sanitarium, the same one I was just speaking of earlier. By the way, people get messages from family. They come from all over the world, and their family will contact them. Anyway, we're about to start filming because I used to work on a show, right? We're about to start filming. I go off to get pizza for everybody. I pull up in the truck. They're all standing on the lawn. So I'm like, was there a fire drill? Like, what's going on, guys? And they all look serious. Boy, they look serious. And the one of the owners at the time, it's the mother of the people who own it now. She was waiting inside. She's very intuitive, just really intuitive. You know, when she's really in the zone, her eyes like shoot up to the side. It's really strange. And they go, Lori needs to speak to you. And I was like, did I do something? Did I accidentally break something? Like what, why would Lori need to speak to me? And she's sitting in there and she goes, I have a message from your brother. Do you want to hear it? And I was like, I want to hear it. Spit it out. And she said, he keeps doing this to prove that it's him. He keeps doing this. And she didn't know jack about my brother David, right? But we were both fourth degree black. He was a fifth degree black belt. I was a fourth degree black belt in
Oh.
American and Korean Taekwondo. And that would be our fighting stance that he was showing her to prove it was him. So I was like, okay, yep, that's fighting stance. We know we're talking to David, right? And anyway, she goes, he has some questions for you. I was like, he has questions for me, which is right on par for how we were when we were alive. And she said, well, he was given four choices on that. He didn't know he died for like 3 days. And then he finally figured out he was dead. But now he got four choices. And some entity gave him choices like you can stay and be a guardian. You can go to a completely other place. And right now I'm blanking on what the last two, but there were four, right? And then she said, and he wants to know what he should do. I just started laughing because everybody was so serious outside, and oh, this big communication came through, and I just laughed because I knew it was him, and I just said, David, I just looked up because I knew he was there somewhere listening, and I just said, look, man, if you get a chance to go do something phenomenal, completely different, like, why not go? I don't need you as a guardian. I'm a big girl. Everybody in our family we're all grown. We're all, middle-aged now, go do your thing, bro. If you get a chance to go, pow. And and then that was it. She goes, he's gone. So I don't know. I have felt his presence around and stuff, but at that moment he just zapped out. That was it. So the answer to the question is I think we get choices, based on who we are and what our lessons need to be. So I'm not scared of it. I don't want to pass or anything like that. I'm not looking forward to it. I'm not in a
Yeah.
rush. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I have really lost the fear. I have really lost the fear about the particular of what's going to happen. It's whatever needs to happen, and we're going to do it. I'm not necessarily a strict reincarnation person, but I know that we do have lessons to learn. I'll put it that way. However that happens.
That's
What do you think? What do you
incredible.
think? Does that answer
That's
your question?
no, no. I mean,
That is
I'm
incredible. Yeah.
absorbing it. I'm absorbing it. And I wanted
Yeah.
to give Cindy a chance to see if she had anything to add to that.
Well, I mean that kind of hits close to home. And my as my son that has passed,
Mhm.
I often wonder,
Yeah.
is he okay over there? I
Yeah.
I feel
I think
him
they're just fine.
sometimes. I feel
Mhm.
him sometimes. But I just don't want it. I didn't want him to suffer. And I'm praying he knows that I tried to do the right thing.
I
And
think
that's
they
that's
all
hard for
know.
me.
I think they all know.
You know,
Hmm. I think they
and
all know,
I
and I'm also of the thought process that they feel. However, they feel how you feel towards them, like really genuinely have the complete feeling fine, because you think, oh, my mom loves me, right? My mom loves me, but you don't know the real feeling inside of that love. You just have the idea, like, I know what love kind of, but I think that, yeah, that he would actually feel, this is just based on answers I've gotten and stuff over the years, that they
Right.
actually feel true love, that just in its purest form. So if there's that, at least I really feel
Right.
confident in saying that. I really do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
What
he
a terrible
knows.
time. Sorry that happened.
I do carry a
Yeah.
lot of guilt up to, his passing because I did make him a promise and I feel like I broke that promise to him, even though there was nothing I could do to change the outcome, you know. And I
Hmm.
never want him to think that I lied to him, to mask anything. I did the best I could with what was happening, and it
So if
does.
you
I
were
carry a lot of guilt from it.
saving him from some sort of mental, were you saving him from some sort of mental anguish about what was going on?
No, he passed away from undiagnosed testicular cancer, and when he went to go get it checked, it was already too late. And the way the
Hmm.
hospital informed me and everything that transpired when he did get diagnosed, and I mean, within 2 weeks, he was intubated from diagnosis to being intubated, and 3 weeks later, he was gone.
Oh
So
my
it
goodness.
it took him quickly because he waited to get tested. And I carry a lot of guilt from that. I mean, he's forever my 35-year-old, but I didn't teach him, and I feel a lot of guilt towards that. And I made a promise to him when he got diagnosed while we're sitting in the emergency room and we first got the diagnosis that we were going to beat it. I'm going to be with you every step of the way, and I was. I never left his side. From the moment he was diagnosed to his passing, I never left the hospital. Um, and
I don't
I,
think it's uncommon for 35-year-old men to not go get checked like that. I don't think that's
yeah,
uncommon at all. And I don't blame you. You shouldn't. I just here, we just met. You shouldn't really be blaming yourself. He's a grown man, and
I
it's
know.
not normal for 35-year-olds to go in and be checked. So, and if it wasn't obvious to him with some sort of, uh,
Yeah,
in the
he
beginning when it
apparently
starts, then it's not you. It's not on you. But
he said
anyway,
it
I'm
never
sorry.
hurt him.
I
So
don't mean to interrupt.
yeah, he said it never hurt him, so he had no clue until he was
Right.
starting to have back pain and other pains. And he was thinking, oh, I'm just getting old man syndrome. It's the weather. And it really wasn't. It was metastasizing,
Yeah, and
you know,
35 is just about the time where you start feeling your bones
you
and
know,
you're like, uh-oh, time is
yeah.
real.
And
Yeah,
I
so it
really
makes
didn't
sense that he
teach
would think
him.
it was other
I didn't feel
things.
that I taught him enough because, he was raised pre-internet and, we didn't know these things as parents, that we should
Mhm.
teach our sons this, and especially being a single parent, we didn't
Yeah,
we didn't know to teach them this. We didn't even know that that was really a thing, and
yeah.
then 5 years
Well,
prior,
my
he was
dad didn't
just,
teach me how to do a breast exam, so
yeah, so
it
Yeah.
makes sense. Like I said, my dad didn't teach me to do a breast exam. Why would you, even consider
yes,
teaching your son how to do an exam? Or
Well, and you
it's
don't
just not
expect 35-year-olds to get that kind of sickness.
no,
That's,
correct.
I
you know,
never suspected anything. He never told me anything. He never told me there was swelling. He never told me that there was any issues, which I mean, he's a grown man. He's a little embarrassed, but he never
Yeah.
saw the doctor really. He
Yeah.
never went for checkups. He didn't do those things. He just didn't feel his need until he felt the need, and by then it was too late. And I
Yeah.
feel that guilt. I carry that guilt. And I know y'all say, "Oh, don't." Yeah, I'm a
I know
parent.
you can't, we can say it, it's harder to whatever. What I can only wish for you is that as time goes by, you can try to forgive
Yeah.
yourself.
I mean,
Just
it's
look
it's
yourself in
not
the
even
eye
been
in
a
the mirror
year.
and say, was it really me?
Yeah, it's
And
not
then
even been a
answer
year.
yourself as your best friend. Answer yourself as your best friend. Was it really me? Was it really my fault?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I hope the best for
It's
that.
just going to take time to kind of mentally for me to move past some of that and
Yes.
come to a realization that, he was his own man,
Yeah.
and
But it's raw. It's so new right now for
yeah,
you that, and time doesn't heal everything. It just helps you numb it out a little bit.
correct. It does. Yeah. And I will never heal from this because parents are
Okay.
not supposed to. outlive their children, you know.
And
And I look at my daughter and it scares me to death that, something's going to happen to her or my grandson, and it's put a lot more fear from life over those two, you know.
yeah,
Um, and that shouldn't be there. I want to know where my daughter is at all times. Is she okay? Did she make it to her destination? And this is stuff that just goes through my head as a parent, even
hmm
though she's lived on her own for years and years. And yes, I was concerned if I didn't hear from her for a week or I didn't see anything posted on Facebook, that gave me an inkling that she was okay. I'd be calling her or sending her a text, hey, but that was just the mom in me. But now I'm more helicoptery, if that makes sense,
yeah,
because I
yes, it does.
realized that something could be so quick. And
Yeah,
with my son, it was so quick. And granted, I'm thankful in a way it was quick because he didn't suffer in that
yeah,
aspect, but I didn't get enough time to process.
yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does
So,
to me.
yeah,
It does to me.
it's still rough on me, and when I look at my grandson who's just 2, I'm just like I don't want to ever let him go. I don't know you are not allowed to experience the world, but then I'm like, no, then you're just making him, you're not giving him the opportunity
Yeah,
to grow as a child. So,
yeah.
take those chances, get hurt, and move forward. And he sometimes my grandson, he really kind of freaks me out a little bit. Uncle Grizzly, and I'm like, dude, how do you even really,
Yeah.
little man, you're not really supposed, you knew him, you've met him a few times. He held you one time. And I have one picture of my son holding, my grandson. And it's
hmm
a beautiful picture. I love it. Um, but how does he know? Because he passed when Sebastian was just turning to.
Well,
My
I
son
definitely,
passed,
there's visitations, and I think it's common to
and
get
I think
visitations
that's what
on
it
young
is.
kids because they haven't turned off their filter yet. You know what I mean? In
Correct.
the sense of they're wide open, they're ready to accept and learn anything. So if there's an entity there, they're like, oh, hey, not realizing that that there's a window that closes, I think. And there's a pretty famous kid, I think they even made a movie about him, who was able to say his past life, is his name, where he
Yes.
worked, how he passed, and it all checked out. It
All of
all
it
checked
checked
out, and
out.
he
And
didn't
he's
stop
World War
talking about
II
it till
pilot
he
or
visited
something.
the location or something. Yeah, and there was also a child who was a worker somehow in the Twin Towers or something that did the same thing. And so, in that respect, I think there is some of that. I'm sure he came to visit. Your son had to come visit, and
Well,
yeah, that's beautiful,
4th.
actually.
My son passed August 4th, and Sebastian's birthday is August 10th. So he just turned 2 right before my son passed, or right after my son passed. And, so really his developmental, he really didn't know Uncle Grizzly, but it's like he'll say, Uncle Grizzly's car, because, that's the car I drive is Uncle Grizzly's car. And he'll say things,
Mhm.
and that was Christopher's little pride and joy was his little Jeep, and it's just, yeah, I'm telling you, sometimes little ones know and can feel that
Mhm.
presence and know that presence is there.
Yes, yes. Wow.
So, well,
But
wow. And these are personal stories, about loved ones passed. I don't think I've ever felt, any of my, like my dad passed away earlier this year, and I have his
mhm,
ashes here with me. I bought a nice urn. Well, it's a tree of life. It's more of a wooden box with a tree of life on it because that
mhm,
was more my dad than I would have a cross on mine. That's just me. But my dad was more religious aside, so I got him what I thought was apropos. So he's in the tree of life. But I was kind of nervous about doing that, with my dad's ashes, and especially because I've been so emotional about it. And I'm a little more, I don't show my emotion very much outside. I do that alone or just with my husband mostly. But I haven't felt any
mhm.
any of that, any no juju, because I was kind of worried. It's like, okay, Pop, you kind of like to pull little pranks. What's gonna happen when I
I was
have
gonna
your
say,
ashes here?
yeah.
So, but no, nothing so far. But I just, Do you think there's any kind of why would some spirits kind of be here and others not communicate with
Well,
us?
I think they have a choice. I do think that that
Oh,
there are in some cases a choice. And we've heard about near-death experiences where people come
mm-hmm.
back and talk about the light. They talk about hellish experiences, like either or. And then there's some people that said there was just nothing. They didn't experience a darn thing,
Yeah.
and so I think that that's a choice. I really do. And,
See, we have two.
like I
Oh,
said, with for my brother, if he had a chance to go do something cool, your dad would go do it. You know what I mean? Like if
yeah.
he had
Oh,
an opportunity, like,
absolutely.
hey, you live in wherever, I don't even know, but yeah, that he would try to go do that. And I would hope that anybody who that I don't like when I hear like people kind of stuck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's transient spirits that come and go, but there
Yeah.
are some that don't seem to be able to leave. And my house here has activity, and I was looking for an EVP. I started getting my stuff together for y'all's show, and came across a funny, well, it's not funny, but EVP here at my house when I first moved in, and I was just sitting downstairs by the wood stove because yeah, we got a wood stove, and it was like 4 in the morning. I was in a cycle of getting up really early, so. I heard some noise, so I turned on my recorder because I sleep with one evidently. But and I was just like, "Hi, well, good morning." I sound like an idiot. Good morning. Like I was excited to see a friend. I was like, "Can you say hi?" And it just said, "Help
Oh,
It
back."
said,
Right?
it said
Yeah.
help.
And then help. It responded help when I said, "Yeah." I said, "Can you say hi?" And it said help. And over the past 12, even it does um audio stuff like what like regular voice phenomenon where you can hear it with your ears, and that troubles my husband a little bit sometimes because he's like, hey, where's the dogs? And this woman's voice goes outside, and we hear it, and he was like, no, 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 you don't talk to me.
"Whoa!"
But yeah, like and
Wow.
I in the room I'm sitting in here, I forgot what the question was, but in the room I'm sitting in here, it used to be, I used to call it my closet room. I had a bunch of clothes and stuff in here when I had way too much stuff when I moved in. Anyway, I had two English masses at the time, and I walk in here and I go, lay down Allosaurus, lay down Bronte, and this woman goes, ah, I'm in here. She was ticked that I was in her
Bringing the
space or
dogs.
In her
whatever.
space,
And
yeah.
so, yeah, she was, ah, you could just hear it. She was like, oh, get out of here. And I forgot what I was going to say. There's so
Now,
much.
what about residuals, ones that kind of keep repeating in loops that are just,
Mhm,
like you see at Gettysburg and stuff like that, the soldiers that are walking around or leaning up against a tree. I've actually got a
mhm.
picture. I wish I could have found it before our show, but they didn't find it. I'm not certain. It might be in storage, but it's of a soldier leaning up against a tree, and these are residuals. How can you get them to move on, or can you?
I don't think a residual can move on because it's like a tape player, a cassette player, and it really starts getting into space. To me, this jumps all the way out to space weather and how the sun and affects our magnetic field, and that there's fluctuations within that field. I'm gonna try to keep it real short.
Oh, go ahead.
Fluctuations within
Take.
that field, and then certain parts of the land or the world, they do have like a more of a stable loop type. Like they're always going to have sort of similar electromagnetic field fluctuations, and I
Mhm.
can't fully explain it. It's just a theory, like a loose theory of it. But the more you really, if you start studying how the Earth's magnetosphere works and how it interacts with the sun and actually the greater solar system at large, you start realizing that just like a cassette tape player, remember when you hit play and record at the same time? It
Mm,
records, but it's using a magnetic head, that there's something about that land. Maybe there's something about the limestone that's underneath it or the granite that's underneath that you know the and um, that particular area somehow can hold that information and replay it. I've seen it with my own eyes myself. I've seen disembodied legs walk past the fireplace. I saw arm reaching out of a jail cell,
Wow.
just like
oh
that,
my
and stuff, and
gosh.
that it's not, but there's no other interaction. It's just like this little visual phenomenon. And then you go
Just
to
to
tell
see.
everybody what you saw, and they're like, oh, yeah, saw that. I've seen that almost every time I've been here, or something like you're not special or whatever. I'm
Oh
like,
gosh. Well, it's your first time to experience it, so it's cool
yeah. And
or,
they're like, no,
scary.
people have seen it prior to that over time. And so you're like, okay, so that's really more of a residual thing because they're seeing the exact thing. If it was a non-residual, you might see the same type of person, but maybe in different places doing different things, saying different things on EVPs and stuff like that. But yeah, I really think it comes down to and I hate repeating the same old thing, but the stone tape theory, where it's like we use quartz in our watches. We use quartz to you
Mm-hmm.
do the magic. You can see through the glass now. You can't stuff. It's that quartz really, really does hold a lot of energy, and so I think it also comes down to maybe some quartz content and probably other things I'm unaware of or can't remember at the moment.
One
Well,
time you told me, oh, sorry, Cindy, go ahead.
I
Or
was kind of going
Dawn's
to go
race.
on a theory of, you spilled blood on the land. The land held its memory. Because my best friend and I, my sister's who I call her, she was very sick and waiting surgery, waiting to get into surgery, and she was cooped up in the house. So we took a drive. Now we lived in Norfolk, Virginia, and I took a drive across the water, Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel, and we drove through Williamsburg and then Yorktown, and it's about 2:15 in the morning,
Mhm.
and both of us, so we came to a stop sign on the cobblestone road. Both of us instantaneously, just like we couldn't move, we couldn't breathe, there was nothing. And it was just like something passed through us. And you can't recreate it. It was like maybe a
Yeah.
cannonball passed through us or something, but the blood of the land, it held its memory. So whatever happened during that time,
Yeah.
maybe on that date that we happened to be there at that exact time, it was recreating it because Yorktown has a lot of blood, a lot of war has gone on
Mhm.
there. So it's retained its memory. And we think possibly during that time that we were passing through that particular spot, something happened and it was passing through us at a residual that passed
That's
on through.
wild.
It was freaky. And both of us, when we finally came back into ourselves, we looked at each other and was like, did you feel that too? And she was like, I felt that
Did you
too.
feel any physical pain
Yes.
or? Oh,
The weight
okay.
was on our
Wow.
chest. It's like we didn't need to breathe. It was like a weight on our chest, and we were like stuck. I mean, just physically, we couldn't move. We were stuck. It pushed us back, like physically pushed us back into. I was driving, she was in the passenger seat. It pushed us into the seats, whatever
Oh
it
my
was. We
gosh.
had no idea what it
Think about
was,
the
That's scary.
concussive
and
nature, the
it was within.
concussive nature of a cannonball, like this big metal thing, smaller, big, whatever, and yeah, and the holding the land and the energy just kind of repeating that, you know,
We
the
kind of feel.
shock
I
wave.
felt
That's the
it
word
was
I'm
more
looking
like a cannonball because that's kind of
for.
what I envisioned in my mind while it was happening. We know the history of the land, of course,
Mhm.
we live here,
Oh, yeah.
but it was like that intense, and it felt just like center mass, and it was just like,
Can
you didn't. And she will attest, we both
Yeah.
had the same paranormal type experience at the same time in the same spots, because we were in the car together, and it was just like really intense. And we were like, "Did you?" And yeah, did you? Yeah, and it was really an intense. But I think it's because the land held that traumatic injury because of what was spilled on the land. And this goes
well
back
I
all the way into ancient Egypt. The land
right.
retains its
Mhm.
memory, especially flood. Even Native Americans believe it as well, you know.
Well, I was wondering, you guys, and maybe y'all have a theory or whatever, or maybe when it's something like that on a battlefield, and people are seeing these scenes, are they seeing the actual spirit of these people or just some kind of scene that attached to the land? Does that make sense?
Like the residual playback,
A
like you would
timeless
see
Yes,
at
and it's
Gettysburg
not
when the
necessarily the
infantry.
spirits
Yeah.
of these people.
It's like a time loop.
Right.
Maybe the veil is real thin there because, all timelines, according to
It's
astrophysics or
all
whatever
Different
you
happening
want to call it,
at
dimensions.
they
once.
all occur at the same time, no matter what time it is, because we as humans are the only ones with a constructed time. We have constructed our time. But in the I don't know. I'm not a physicist, so I really have a tough time explaining it. But they
It's
say
time
Quantum
that
physics.
space. Yeah,
yeah, it all
it's a big
lays
piece of
over
time space. Yeah.
all at the same time. It's all happening at the same time. That's why if there were time travel, so to speak, we can only go forward, not
Not
backward,
backward. Yeah.
because all of it's happening at the same time. That's kind of how I understand it at the very, uh, you know, Oklahoma
The
State
layman's
University
level,
level.
right? Yeah.
But
Back in the day, I have to say I have to pat myself on the back a little bit. Back in the day, I used to my theory was that there were it's the multiverse, right? And
Right.
right,
that time space undulates, we know that it moves, and that what we see sometimes just where it's bumping or crossing or melding a little bit, and so get to see or hear something for a split second, but it's just the undulation of time. That's what I used to think when I was, and but now it's not quite right. But now we learn more about space time. I was like, ah, I was onto something, back before
do
the
you
internet and all that, and you're
okay?
just
Do you
researching on
think
your own.
CERN?
Before we
Do you
had
think
Stefan Berg
CERN
to
maybe
tell us
have
about
jumped us
space
a
weather.
timeline? Would you say that CERN maybe in
I'm kind of
2012
feeling
that we jumped a timeline? Like our timeline may have ended and we jumped to a different type timeline consciously?
Thus the Mandela effect.
something
The Mandela.
changed. Yeah, because of, and there's, I don't believe in all the, people keep coming out with more Mandela effects, but I think the Berenstain Bear thing is
Yes.
very valid. And I have found the
Yes.
Berenstain and the real stuff before, and also the Monopoly Man. There was a
Yes.
Monopoly game that came out with the monocle. We've seen that physical game. We've seen some physical evidence of that, and what baffles me is that powers that be, whoever they are, like Adolf, they
They.
claim, they, tried to deny it for some reason. And I think that it is part of this something at CERN. I really do. And I know it doesn't sound as crazy as it used to,
No,
does
I
it?
No.
100%.
Gosh.
I 100% believe that something happened in 2012 when they fired up that collider that either a Gen X timeline ended and we consciously moved to another timeline that is the nearest to our current timeline, or
Mhm.
they brought something through
Maybe to
or they
prevent
lived it,
something
you know.
really bad happened, or something really bad was about to happen, so we had to switch off. But I think the thing about the universe is it's going to get what it wants in the end, so we can switch timelines
Yeah,
as much, but the end will come. The
it's
end will
going to
come.
come to
Maybe
whatever it
not in a
is that
billion
they're,
years, but it will
yeah.
come.
I mean, that's
Yeah,
that's the pretense to what is that movie where they were supposed to all die in an airplane crash, but certain people lived, and then death was coming after them. That's kind of the
That's some
pretense to all of it.
final destination
Final
stuff.
Destination, that's it. Yep, Final Destination.
I don't watch those kind that I watch spooky movies. Don't get me wrong, but when it comes to Final Destination, I don't need to know any more ways that a person can die because I feel like I've already thought of them all. You know how you were talking
I, you know
earlier about not being afraid of death. I'm not afraid of after. I'm afraid of how.
exact. Well, yeah, that's yeah. That it's
You don't
about
want to suffer,
losing that
right?
physical body
Yes.
and how.
Well, and I don't want some
But I
serial
have to
killer
tell you,
ex murderer to hack me up or something, you know? I mean, come on. I don't want some kind of
I do
terror.
have some PTSD about it.
You do?
I don't want to be stabbed. I get real scared about being stabbed.
Oh, well, yeah, yeah.
So
What do you think
I
about
do. I have an
birthmarks?
irrational fear, even when I'm holding a knife myself. What?
What do you think about birthmarks? Do you think they are a signal of a previous life?
I do, and I have a whole thing about it. I have a whole thought on this. My mother and I have the same birthmark. Funny enough, it's behind our left knee, and it's like a dark patch that's a rectangle straight down. But okay, I'll try to keep this as short as possible. I have thought for probably the last 20 years that my last day in my last body was being run over by horse and wagon, and that the wheel actually went straight up the middle and then off to the right.
Oh,
I've had so many neck and back surgeries. I've got rods. I've had so many. Every single issue has been on that meridian and over. Every single one from, I can't even tell you. And I always said, I feel like I was trampled and run over by a wagon.
Mm.
And so hard to explain but it's like I could just take a Sharpie and draw a line where I think the wheel went. And I'm not even joking. Um, we could go about past life stuff a little bit if you guys wanted to. I
Well,
have a
I
couple.
mean, it leads to kind of the topic that we're discussing. I mean, I have a
It
birthmark
does.
that's in a shape of a man. I have a head, a body, two arms, and two legs. It's on my thigh, and I never could
Mhm.
explain it. My grandson has a little egg on his stomach, which kind of reminds me of a wound of some sort, whether it's,
Yes.
knife or other,
Mhm.
but that birthmark, according to ancients, if I was, in Salem witch trials, I would have been strung up easily because of it, because they
Oh
thought
yeah,
the
me
birthmark
too.
was
Day one.
symbol of, symbol of the devil. But I
Yeah,
don't know where that birthmark, what it would represent. It's a shape of a man. I've got a head, a body, two arms, and it's all one
that's
big,
wild.
and it's about like that big.
Isn't it wild that we were ever so, I don't know if arcane is the right word, so backwards in our thinking that we would think that a mole or a birthmark was some kind of demonic thing. I mean, to me, that just, it doesn't even
It's because
register.
it's a lack of information, and people are going to
Yeah,
try to fill the gap any way they can. And you have to remember that that was about control more than religion. It was about control,
actually, yeah, yeah, it absolutely
and
was.
to this day it still is. But total side note, when Darla and I were in junior high school in seventh grade, I got a book from the library, and it was like medieval witchcraft stuff, right? And so I was just like reading through it, and it said um, witches were usually they had named Robin, and I was like, oh, but my
Named
name is
what?
Robin.
Robin.
Robin, and
Okay.
that on their right arm they would 3 dots, which it won't show up on camera, three freckles in a triangular form. I was like, I've got that. And then it said, and before the third year, we'll get a scar on their left thumb. And you probably can't see it because it was right before I turned 3. You can't see it probably on the camera. I had my sister was riding on her handlebars. I fell off, broke my arm. There's this whole thing, right? And that moment in life, I was like, was I a witch? Am I a witch? Because that book, but it was just random. You can be born with any number of things and be so unlucky that you end up at the bottom of a lake, you know what I mean, with
Yeah,
stones
Very
yeah.
to
true.
your back. But
Yeah, that's very
and
Wow.
true.
just me, even in modern day, I was like, oh, it says it here, so it must be true, which you know.
Dawn's rays. Just a little side note about that. We started getting into reading a lot about the Salem witch trials and stuff. And of course, as teens, it was like, ooh,
Mhm.
But we tried to make a voodoo doll of our choir teacher. We didn't like her very much. We melted a bunch of candles and put the wax in a pie pan, and we were trying to make a voodoo doll, and she was
Well,
kind of hefty, so
intention.
we made it fat, and
That's
Yeah,
side
and it
terrible.
note.
really is about intentions, even if we didn't know how to strictly
Yeah,
make, it
it really is
probably
all about intentions. I mean, the actual physical object that you're using is just that. It's a physical object. It's the intention
something
behind
to
you and the energy
focus
you put
on.
it
Mhm.
into that actually creates the magic, so to speak, if you really want to go down the woo-woo channel. Um, but yeah, anyway, let's go back to some of the experiences and stuff that you've had, Miss Robin, and
Well, I think that's a good, let's see, I've got a couple of physical experiences, but you mentioned like that feeling of the cannonball, and it
yeah,
kind of, okay, so back to I've mentioned Wildwood Sanitarium, which is about 20 minutes away from an amazing location called Hinsdale House. And feel free to you guys go look it up. Go look up Hinsdale House, go look up Wildwood. So we're filming. We've split the team. Half of us are at Wildwood and the other half stays at Hinsdale. Hinsdale's got its own creepy stuff to talk about. Anyway, the one of the cameramen calls me, and this is a grown man called, he's like, please come back. Please come here. We need help. Something's wrong. And I'm not going to mention the person's name. Something's wrong with him. He's not acting right. We're freaking out over here. And his voice, I said, everyone stop production, get in the truck. We have got to go to Hinsdale now. Something bad is going on. What's his face is not acting right. And this is one of the stars of the show. We've been so many, it just was not normal. I can't see at night to drive. It's really late. So I have co-worker, we'll call him co-worker, driving the truck. And I see, oh, I'm like, oh no, a dead deer on the side of the road. And then I see another one standing on the other side, just like a big buck, right? Like a big, and it's right when we see the sign that just says Hinsdale, right? Coming up. So I'm just like, oh no, oh no. And then I go, ah, like that, because I thought something was going to hit my face. And now I'm in the passenger seat of a Ford F-150. And I literally was like, threw my hands up, and he's like, oh, what? The guy who's driving is like, oh my God. And I was like, something just got in my face. And I said, but it was a face. I said, it was a face. I thought something was going to hit me. Okay. So
Okay.
I'm going to show you the picture in just a minute. So that we go over there, we walk around. For some reason, they send me out to like tell the spirits to calm down and whatever. Everybody's waiting outside. They send me in alone, and I went okay, and I went in and was like, we need to calm everything down. Blah blah blah. Anyway, so it's maybe a week later. We're talking about filming. We were talking about the location. We're debriefing over what happened while we were there, because we all live in different states and stuff like that. So the guy who was acting funny, it was his turn to talk, and he goes, I don't know, guys, I don't remember what you were talking about, or what was going on. I don't remember the moment where y'all said I was acting funny. And they said you were sitting in this, it's a pretty big closet, this closet, staring in the mirror, and you turned and looked up at us, and your eyes changed. And he goes, I remember a vision. He didn't have it. He said what he was looking at in the mirror was these big almond eyes and like these brown horns, and
Ooh.
these jagged teeth. Well, I had brought show and tell. And I go, oh, because I'm going to show you the picture now, and it's unfinished. The green sign should say Hinsdale. This is a picture of me in the truck and what came at my face. Now he's describing this thing. He doesn't know I painted. He doesn't know anything. I did not mention this. Okay. Okay. Here we go.
Oh,
Ooh. Oh my.
This was the moment I threw my hands up because I thought something was going to hit my face. And it was so mad at me. It did not want me coming back to Hinsdale to help. And
Ah.
he fell out of his chair and said, that's exactly what I was seeing in the mirror. And so we saw the same thing. That entity was messing with him, and it came to stop us from coming back to help.
oh my
I'm getting the
Man,
gosh.
chills
yeah.
right now, and this happened 3 years ago.
Yeah,
That's
that just
absolutely a
So I
great
didn't finish
painting.
that. That should be Hinsdale. And I couldn't finish it because I started getting sick every time I pulled it out. And I actually had a low blood sugar type incident right after I pulled it out, before I was waiting for you guys. I couldn't finish it, so it's
Could
undone.
that
So
be the
don't
mythical Mothman? That's what it makes me think of, other than it does
This would be
no.
the closest thing that I would actually call a demonic. This is the closest thing I would
that
call to be in that. I had interactions with it prior to that time. I've been there several times, but this is where the kind of place you would be sitting on. It doesn't have it does have a second floor, but you sit on there and something would come beat on the window from outside. It's that kind of thing. And I was in the kitchen. This was a prior trip, and I think I was too open about it. There's a locked pantry that stays locked. It's kind of like an Airbnb, but it's not. Anyway, and they beat on the window, boom, 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 all the way down the kitchen window to the pantry. And I heard the door move. And I went over and I go, what are you doing? Like real like, hi, what are you doing? But not like that. I was like, what are you doing? And the EVP that I got back said, I can hear your blood.
Oh,
Like I could hear the blood running through my body or whatever.
yeah.
And I was like, I didn't hear that till later when I had to go listen back to all the evidence or whatever, but I was shocked. I was like, okay, I can hear your blood. Okay. So whatever it is, it just didn't seem like a positive answer to me. And that it was like thirst. It almost made me give me the feeling that it was thirsty for it. It was thirsty for the blood. He could hear the blood, and then maybe fear, how it quickens your pace of your
Yes,
heart and that
yes.
sort of thing. And I think that it really likes that. It spent a lot of time jump scaring people, this
Right.
entity.
do
And
you think it was playful, humorous on
no,
his
it's
side,
not.
or do
I
you
didn't
think
think it
it
was
was
playful. Mm-mm. It's
so
not
it
playful
was
at all.
definitely a demonic type
But
Moloch
this
type
is what
entity?
and I like get out. Yeah. Unless they used to say back in the day. Like, so that's
Like,
probably one of the scariest
Interesting.
Like this one.
entities I've ever come
Get
across.
out. Get out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Interesting.
that's a real thing. But if you ever get a chance to go to Hinsdale House, I know you got to come up to New York. I will go with you. You guys will go there. We'll rent it for the night, and because there's a great outside as well as inside. There was a lot of
Dawn's raises the hop,
there
skip,
was
and jump
actually
away.
Nick
Yeah.
Groff. Yeah,
Yeah. I've
Nick
been.
Groff did a show actually in Hinsdale, and I did not get to meet Nick, but some people did. But basically, it was a farmstead. They were burying. This was way back in the day, like 1800s or whatever, even 1700s. They were burying their family members behind the barn. The barn got torn down at some point and disappeared or whatever. And then in the 60s, they came in to like refurbish the land, refurbish the house, the little farmhouse, and they dug a pond. And as they dug that pond, just pushed how one does, you push all the extra dirt to the side, makes a hump. The family, they love it. This 1960s family loved it. They move in, and the woman's washing dishes. I'm trying to make this a short story. Washing dishes, and her dogs keep bringing in bones, long
Oh,
bones.
geez.
She thinks it's deer. She's throwing them in the trash.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh.
Turns out they're human.
Oh.
Yeah. And so fast forward to and violent activity going on at that house. Fast forward to closer to the future, we have like Nick Groff investigating there. He takes a diver into that pool because they did find bones. Yes, they're human. Takes a diver in and he finds some of the old headstones down there at the bottom. So I have a laser thing. I made like a granite memorial for it or whatever, and they built a little stand. It's out there, whatever. But um, stuff gets real out there, man. And I'm telling you, the negativity and all of the disturbing, I think of those graves and the dogs chewing on them and just getting thrown away, like maybe your legs at the dump, your other one's at the bottom of a pond. There was a lot of weird stuff. Yeah. Anyway,
they were
I would go there in
probably
a heartbeat.
angry. I mean, it's really, whether intentional or not, it's a desecration.
It really
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
And then there's also desecration possibly of Native American stuff around there as well. And I think that whatever that is, I'm not saying it's one of the folklore Native American entities, but it is definitely non-human and it is definitely a bad person. It's a bad person. It's a
There's
bad
a
thing.
there's a park up there in New York, and I saw a thing about it. It starts with a U. I wish I could remember the name of the park, but I've heard about things going on there. Does the U, a park that starts with U, a big thing? Okay, never mind. It was
Do you know
something
what part of New York?
I
North,
think it was
south,
upstate, where, but they had,
upstate? Well, there's a town called Utica. The only thing I
yeah,
can think of is a
I've heard
city
of
called
Utica,
Utica.
but this, okay, never mind. I just know that a lot of kids would go out there, and there was supposedly some satanic stuff going on.
Oh yeah,
Unfortunately,
yeah,
dog sacrifices. I don't know. I
yeah.
was just throwing it out there.
I know.
Never mind
I
on
don't.
that.
No,
Nice.
Have you been
no.
to that Amityville house? Have you seen it in person?
I
Perchance, since
haven't
you're.
seen it in person. I saw I was on my way to an investigation, and one of the arrows pointed towards Amityville, and I was just like, "There goes the sign." That's as close as
Oh,
I.
okay, okay. I was
But
just
evidently,
wondering.
they've kind of blocked it off. There's so many people that drive by and
I think
stuff
they've
like.
changed the address too. They've,
Yeah, something happened that they changed it up. So,
Hmm.
mm-mm. But
If a site gets famous, they kind of have to get rid of it in a way,
yeah,
yeah, but
goes down
so
that
I don't
way.
know how long you guys plan on going, but I do have one more like really physical story that I'd like to share with you.
Perfect.
absolutely.
My
Absolutely.
top three um issues and okay, where do I start? So we were gonna film, we were invited from another show, three of us to go film with them in Illinois. That is a terrible trip. New York to Illinois. Don't recommend it. 0 out of 10. It was supposed to take a certain amount of hours, but there was construction all the way there, and it took like double the hours, and we were exhausted, and we had to. And I'm the equipment, like I do the investigation, but I usually have all the equipment, and so I had to lug a bunch and set up all the cameras all over this jail, and we filmed and filmed. It was real exciting, and it turns out that their audio didn't. The people who were actually their film equipment did not record any audio. right? And so it was kind of it was scrapped. It never came out, and they didn't want my audio for whatever reason. I was like, I've got it on all my CCTVs that I set up
Yeah,
everywhere, and they're
yeah,
like, nah. Anyway, we were exhausted. Now, Wildwood Sanitarium is about three-quarters of the way, right? And so we were exhausted. We're friends with the owners. So they said, on your way back, just, here's the key, sleep, and then finish your trip home because it's in another 4.5 hours home. So we went through this nightmare filming thing so far away, terrible traffic, and you're up all night investigating. You're just
yeah,
exhausted, you're
yeah,
empty. So we finally get to Wildwood. We're like, we're tired, we're out, we're gonna pass out. And two of the people get on their sleeping bags in the living room, like there's the front door and stuff. They're just on the floor in there. And then I'm in the room right next door, a bay window type of room, laying on a tiny, very painful love seat. So I'm taller than that, and I got one leg up, one leg crossed, and one leg up on the arm of the love seat, right? It was really quite uncomfortable. And so it finally quieted down or whatever. And y'all, y'all, I felt a hand so large that it wrapped from my knee to my ankle around my right leg that was propped up and jerked me off of that couch.
Oh,
And I
shit.
screamed the F word, right? I go, F. And at the same time, one of the girls that was invited to go, the lady, she screams, "Oh my God!" in the other room almost simultaneously. For me, it was a giant hand that ripped me off the couch. I'd never had that much physical stuff at Wildwood. Startling. And she said she was laying in her sleep bag and she felt something grab her head with a giant hand and just basically jerk her head up like it's a chiropractor, like jerk her head, like moved her in her sleeping bag. And so we're up, everybody's up again, and we're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Someone turn on a recorder, what's happening? And I was like, well, I'm up. At least I need to use the restroom, right? So I go into the restroom and I'm like sitting there and I said, I hear water running. So I said, oh no, the sink's probably leaking. You know, uh, we do a lot of repairs on it for free and stuff anyway. I was like, I'll just fix the sink. I opened the door, just that old brown door like thing or whatever, and I hear it's not the sink. I hear the basement. I was like, that's water in the basement. So I run downstairs to this very old building. It has a cement floor down there, and there's like 2 inches of water all over that floor, and it's pitch black. I find one
oh,
light bulb, turn it on, and the water heater had a burst in its side and was spewing out tons of water all over the floor. And so I go over and you do the cutoff valve, right? Because I didn't, I just turned off the whole house because I don't know. It's not my house. I don't have plumbing. So that stopped it or whatever. And it dawned on us that that entity did not want us to go to sleep. It was familiar with us. It knew us. We would go there almost every weekend. Hi, we're Dr. Finder. We'd call out all the spirits' name, Rosie, the nurses and that sort of stuff that used to work there.
They were
I
waking you
mean,
up to
for,
say,
a
hey,
couple of years, we were there all the time. And it did not want us to go to sleep because it needed us to help the house.
yeah.
It's like, wake up.
It was
wow.
telling you, hey, something's wrong. Can you help us out
Something
It
here?
big.
was
Yeah.
not going to let us settle. It was just not. And yeah, so we phoned up the owner, of course, and etc. Went back to sleep or tried to go to sleep. And but I just thought that it seemed scary, right? But it was totally positive intentions. But you start thinking about what entity is that big, can span both rooms with giant hands or whatever, and pick us both up at the same time, pulled on her head, pulled on my leg. And the way we were positioned, it would have been a side to side grab towards the middle of a being. You like if you
Hmm.
grabbed a ball here and a ball there, and you wanted to put it to your chest. She was laying in a direction that was exactly opposite of my
Opposite.
foot in the next room of my leg. It was literally from knee to ankle, a hand, and I could feel it wrapped. Anyway, that was a fun one. That was a good one.
That
That's,
is crazy.
wow. That is awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
I mean, at
Yeah.
least
So
it
that
was
house,
nice enough to say, hey, I need a little help here, and it wasn't, maliciously done to you.
yeah.
It was
At first you
and that
think it was, and that's not yeah. That type of negative stuff only usually happens in the right below the attic. Something will rush out of that attic and you'll hear it run down the hall at you. Boom, 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 boom. It's so cool. And there's so many stories from that house. But yeah, I really like that. That's one of my favorite physical interactions that I've had
Wow.
because I knew I could reconcile that it wasn't negative at all, but it was able to do it, and that's impressive.
Most definitely.
Ooh, kind of scary when you think about them being that big, but they would be. You know,
Mhm. I think
whether
they
it's
could be whatever they
angel
want
or
to be.
demon, they would be larger than life, bigger than
Mhm.
us.
And whether that was a negative energy or a non-negative energy, it knew it needed the house to be okay so that it could have, and we would go in and do some repairs or help or whatever, and we'd always explain, this is so that you're getting this new roof because this is so that you can have a place to be. This is your place to be.
This is your
And we
place,
want to make
right?
sure. So please don't get upset if we're renovating or doing some things. We didn't make big changes. We just fixed what was there. And please don't be upset. You know, we're
That is
just help.
awesome.
Yeah.
Most definitely. Well, thank you, Robyn. This has been such a great interview today, and chatting with
Yes.
you. It's awesome to have you, and we would
Thank
love
you.
to
I
have
had
you back.
fun.
And
Sure, maybe
hopefully I
I can
can
bring
find
some
some of my stuff.
EVPs next time. Yeah.
Most
Awesome.
definitely.
Also, Robin, why don't you, before you go, throw out, I mean, what do you have a company?
Yeah, shameless
Who do
plug.
you,
Give us a shameless plug
yes,
on
yes.
I don't have a shameless plug. You can always go if you have the app Paraflix. You can always go back and watch the show Paranormal Puzzle. Um, I forget there's a few other shows. I don't remember the name, but if you search my name on Paraflix, you can probably come up with some stuff. And I don't promote stuff. This has all really been for my own benefit, my own knowledge, and so I can feel a little bit more comfortable moving to the next life. But yeah, yeah, that's really where all the shows are. Yeah, that I can think of.
Well, if you
awesome.
have anything in the future or any reason, if you text us and say, "Hey, I'd like to pop on," even if we're talking about a different subject, you could always pop on,
Most
or
definitely.
just or we could just set aside another hour if you think of other things that you didn't get to any EVPs, and we'd be very interested in hearing some of those too.
Yep. I've
So,
got tons of stories. I'd be glad to come back. Thank you for at least being interested. I think it was interesting enough to invite me back. I really appreciate it.
absolutely,
Absolutely. Yeah, this is right up our alley as far as different stuff that we'd like to talk about and have people aware of that it does exist. These
Yes.
things that are happening to other people that they're like, oh no, that was just something crazy. No, it's really not. Something's telling you, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
So yeah, we would if you like our show and you give us a like, a follow, or you have a different topic that y'all would like to hear, just give us a write in the comments and we will investigate for you and get back with it. So thank you all for today and
bye.
bye.